Hey Fandom fam, so this video comes highly requested from you guys. I'm going to be telling you about some of my favorite Netflix shows because it can be hard to find all the really good ones on there. There's so many, which is great, but they're not able to promote every single show, so sometimes you end up missing some really good ones because they're not coming up on your feed. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit that thumbs up if you like this video, and if you want to join our fandom family, hit that subscribe button below. So without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so the first show I have to talk about obviously is The Society. Guys, I love this show so much. I feel like it's so underrated because I haven't seen a massive fandom movement behind it, and I don't know if that's because people aren't finding it and watching it, or just because there's not a lot of content being put out, but I could really use some more merch and fanfics. So if you guys like The 100 or Aleta or like Lord of the Flies-esque stuff, then you're gonna love this series. Basically, the series opens with a group of high schoolers. They are going on a class trip. They all pile onto the buses to leave this small town. Once they get on the buses though, a massive storm breaks out. Somehow they all end up falling asleep, and then they wake up and it turns out they're back in their same town. But when they get off the buses, there's no parents in the town and no kids that are younger than them. It's literally just the teenagers. So they have to basically make their own society. And it is such a cool show. The mystery is really great, but what I love most is the dynamics. I mean, they have to make their own society, so you know, they have to figure out who's gonna lead them, how they're gonna get food, water, electricity. It's just such a cool show to see, and it has one of my favorite ships ever in it. It has one of my favorite LGBTQ ships of all time in it, and I know they only got like in total like 7 minutes of screen time together or something stupid, but the amount of times I've rewatched their scenes is like ridiculous. There's another really great ship, like lovers to enemies type ship, and then there's just some really great characters as well, and overall it's just one of my favorite series that I've seen this year, and it did get renewed for season 2, so that is coming in 2020. Next up, The Order. So this one, if you like Riverdale, The Society, The 100, that sort of thing, you'll probably like this series. I'm a little bit torn on it because the first half is very slow and the main character is really dumb, guys. Like, I don't think I've seen a main character that is this dumb and not intuitive in a long time. But the second half of the series really picks up and you just fall in love with the rest of the cast. It's a really, really cool mystery, and there's a massive twist at the end that just, I won't spoil anything, but the ending is really great. So if you like, I mean, it's kind of, basically it's Riverdale, but if there was magic and werewolves. So if you think that sounds interesting, then definitely check out The Order. The Patriot Act. So this one is not a fictional show. It is hosted by Hassan Minhaj, and it is kind of like a late night show, I guess, for Netflix. So it's getting your news in a funny way. But if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out if you're into like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, like that sort of thing. He breaks down the news in an easy to understand way. He makes it funny. He's also got a lot of facts in there. His interviews are great, and there's a lot of topics that he brings up that I wouldn't have normally known that was an issue in the wider scheme of the world. So if you're into like news and information and comedy, then definitely check this one out. Obviously, I have to mention Shadowhunters. Now, I know this one isn't a full-on Netflix series, but it was a Netflix co-pro near the ending of it, and it's just so good. I have to mention it. Now, I should tell you guys, it did get canceled. Super unfortunate because it was one of the best series I've ever seen, but it did come full circle, so if you are planning to watch it, it doesn't end on like a crazy cliffhanger. They knew that they were getting canceled, so they were able to wrap it up. Basically, it's a fantasy series about a girl named Clary who is an artist. She's about to go to art school, but then she finds out that something happened to her mom, and she has to figure it out, and in doing so, she finds out that she is a shadow hunter and part of the shadow world, and that opens up this whole world to her that's filled with shadow hunters and downworlders, and her whole lineage, which was a secret that her mom hid from her, and it's just so good. It's got magic, it's got Malik, which is, Google it, it's one of the best ships ever, and it's it's honestly, it has everything. They tackle a whole bunch of really great issues in the series. It's super diverse. There's LGBTQ ships in it. It's honestly, I can't say enough good things about this series. It's just so well-rounded. It's got everything. So if you like a fantasy type mystery show, then you're gonna love this one. Aleta. So I just figured out this year that I was saying Aleta wrong because I was pronouncing it Elite, but that is apparently not how you do it according to Netflix. So Aleta is basically if Gossip Girl had a murder mystery aspect to it. It basically takes place in this prep school, and some kids get a scholarship to the prep school, and then a murder mystery happens. And throughout the episodes, it shows you kind of after the investigation starts, and then flashbacking to when they're just starting school there, and it goes back and forth until the conclusion. It has 2 seasons. It just got renewed for its 3rd season. I think the 3rd season will be the last. The 2nd season wasn't my favorite. It was still good, but the 1st season, oh my god, blew my mind. Like the cliffhangers at the end of every episode, you have to keep watching to see what happens. It's got some great ships in it as well, and one of the best representations of sexuality I've ever seen on TV. I mean, debatable in the 2nd season. I don't want to spoil anything, but the 1st season definitely. And I should mention the show is in Spanish, so it is subtitled if that's not your first language, but it's so good. Before I mention my last favorite show, I just want to mention a couple that are on my list that I haven't seen either the full series of or that are still on my list and I haven't seen anything of yet, but that I've heard really great things about. So the first one is Dogs, which is an unscripted show about dogs and their stories with their owners, which just seems so sweet. Number 2 is American Vandal, which is a mockumentary. I've seen about half of the 1st season of this. I believe it did get canceled, so I don't know how the 2nd season ends, but the first half of the 1st season was hilarious and such a good mockumentary about basically crime podcasts, essentially. Number 3 is Scream. Gonna be honest, thought this got canceled a long ass time ago, didn't know it was still on, but apparently a new season is coming out. So it is on my list because I think that it's cheesy enough for me to watch. I personally do not like scary things at all, but I have seen the entire Scream series of movies, and for me, I'm able to watch those because they're not really creepy or anything. They're just kind of cheesy and funny and just good Halloween vibes. So I'm interested to see the TV show as well. And number 4, The Norseman, which I believe is a Norwegian comedy. Let me look that up. Yes, okay, so this is a Norwegian comedy, and it's basically about a group of Vikings and how their lives are changing in the time period that they're in, the 700s? 790s. Yes, okay, so this is a Norwegian comedy series. It's basically about a group of Vikings in 1790, I believe, and their lifestyle is changing and how they're dealing with all of those changes. And it just seems like it's really funny. I've seen previews of it, which is really good. And it is Norwegian, so again, subtitles if that's not your first language, but I tend to like the international shows because you get a different perspective of the world, and I just tend to like different types of storytelling. So if you're looking for like a historical comedy, I feel like it would be similar maybe to Gallivant, obviously without the music. So maybe that would be your thing. And the last series I have to recommend is Lucifer. Now, if you have no clue what this series is, basically it takes the myth or story, however you view it, of Lucifer and flips it on its head. So Lucifer basically rules hell, obviously, but he decides he doesn't like that anymore. His dad basically, like God, put him in charge of it, and he's never really loved it. So he takes a vacation and he goes to Las Vegas because of course, and up there in the mortal world, he just basically chills out until he finds Chloe Decker, who is a detective, and he finds his way into a crime scene, and he really enjoys helping her solve this crime because he really likes getting justice for people, and that was his only favorite part of ruling hell, essentially. And so he comes on to the police squad as a consultant and is basically Chloe's partner for the rest of the series, and he doesn't lie. So it's really, really great because Chloe thinks he's completely nuts because he's always telling her he's the devil and God is his dad, and she just thinks like he's eccentric or something, but he has superpowers that work, and it's just a great cast of characters. Tom Ellis is amazing as Lucifer. He is so funny, so sarcastic, just so perfect, and Netflix did pick it up for a 5th and final season, which they're shooting right now. So if you like supernatural or something along those lines that's fantasy and supernatural but also funny and lighthearted, then you'll definitely like Lucifer. So those are some of my favorite Netflix shows. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are watching on Netflix. Personally, I know Raising Dion just came out, so I am absolutely binging that this weekend. I cannot wait. I remember seeing that little short film on YouTube for that series years and years ago, and now it's a Netflix series, which is just amazing. So let me know what you're watching because I'm always looking for new shows, and I will see you guys next Thursday.